Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all here in this session at TNV Academy. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our eminent speaker, Mr. Sunil Kumar, today, who is going to talk to us about what is food safety, food defense, and food fraud. In this webinar today, Mr. Sunil will discuss this topic in detail along with some real life examples he has experienced in the industry. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Sunil Kumar, has done his post-graduation in microbiology from Himachal Pradesh University, India. He is also a lead auditor in ISO 22000 and FSSC 22000 standards. He has an industrial experience of around 10 plus years in field of manufacturing, quality assurance, quality control, and food safety management system. He has been imparting training to a number of organizations, entrepreneurs, and individuals on various topics related to ISO terminologies and their certification and implementation. It was just a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Sunil Kumar. I may request Mr. Sunil Kumar now to please start the session on what is food safety, food defense, and food fraud.
Hi, myself Sunil Kumar. As Paul already shared me about my professional experience and my education background, and I really thanks the TNV Academy and the host to conduct such a well and topic on food safety, food fraud, and food defense. So today we will discuss about the holistic about the food safety, food defense, and food fraud that is used in the food industry, how these standards and requirement are fulfilled into the industries. So here we will start with the introduction. So there is a clear distinction between the food safety, food quality, and food defense, and the overlapping nature of food fraud incidents depending on whether the intentional criminal activity has been potential to cause harm or impact on product quality. So therefore, food safety, food defense, and food fraud risk assessment that are need to consider on the different criteria in order to determine the degree of situational risk for which each criteria and the measurement that are need to be implemented to mitigate that risk. So here the terminology, like for the contamination, the introduction or occurrence of an unwanted organism, taint or substance of packaging, food, or in the food environment. That is also mentioned in the BRC 2015. So it was a definition of about the contamination. Then next is contaminant. A substance not intentionally added to food which is present in such food as a result of production, including operation carried out in crop husbandry, animal husbandry, and veterinary medicine, and other in the like manufacturing, processing, preparation, treatment, and packaging, and also in other area of like transport and holding of such food as a result of environmental contamination. That term does not include the insect fragment, rodent hairs, and other extraneous matter like CAC that is a catching base standards that is in mentioned into 1995. And the other one is hazards. A hazard can be a biological, chemical, or physical agent in condition of food with the potential to cause an adverse health effect. So that's are the different type of hazard that can be cause a health hazard. Like it may be chemical, it may be biological, it may be physical. Then next is adulterant food. And a poisonous or detritus substance which may be rendered it injurious to health. But in case a substance is not added in substance, such food shall be not be considered as adulterant under the clause of the quantity of such substance in which such food that does not ordinary like render an injurious to the health. And misbranded food, any food that is falsely or misleadingly labeled or for the sales under the another name in an intimation of another food where a container is misleading as to the content, that is also mentioned in the FDA FDCA 343. And hazard, as we already shared about the biological, chemical, or any physical hazard. So next is contamination, unintentional activity and being technically unavoidable in food product, that is called contamination. Adulteration, intentional replacement of an ingredient that is specifically motivated, for example, economical or ideological gain. And here are the four elements of food protection. The first one is food safety, unintentional contamination of food that make the food injurious to health. So that is called food safety. So any unintentional contamination like that may be due to the process, that may be to the failure of ingredient, that may be to the failure of process in process, or any like the product related parameters. So that are the unintentional contamination of foods. Food quality, like delivery of attribute that influence the product value to consumers. Then food defense, ideologically motivated in intentional adulteration that make the food injurious to health. So in food defense, these are the ideological motivated intentional adulteration. जैसे कि हम फूड सेफ्टी में बोलते हैं दैट इज अनइंटेंशनल. सो अनइंटेंशनल में क्या है, दैट इज नॉट डूइंग अने बाय ह्यूमन और नॉट इन एडेड इंटेंशनली. फॉर एग्जांपल कोई भी प्रोसेस में कोई क्वालिटी पैरामीटर हिंड्रेंस हो गया है, कोई टेम्परेचर डाउन हो गया है किसी प्रोडक्ट का, वो टेम्परेचर लाइक 100 करना था वो 90 हो गया है. सो दैट इज अ प्रोसेस एरर, दैट इज अ सिस्टम एरर. सो दैट कंटेमिनेशन कॉज ड्यू टू अनइंटेंशनल. सो वैसे वो इंटेंशनल नहीं था, वो प्रोसेस की फेलियर की वजह से हुआ. So that is called unintentional. So that is come under like food safety. And we can say that that is a food safety hazard. That is maybe, as we were talking about the heating, that is a biological hazard. So regarding that food safety, so that's come under that portion. कि वो जो contamination that is unintentional. इन फूड केस वहां पे क्या है कि मोटिवेशनल जो है इंटेंशनल अडल्ट्रेशन की जाती है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल कोई भी आपका फूड है जो आप प्रोसेस कर रहे हो, उसको बना रहे हो, तो उसमें कोई इंटेंशनली कोई चीज ऐड कर देता है और उसको कंटेमिनेट करता है. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड intentional contamination and intentional like economical motivated intention adulteration. So here are the four elements of food protection. As we already know, food fraud, that is economically motivated intentional adulteration that may or may not make the food injurious to health. Thus some food fraud issue may overlap with the definition of food defense, whilst other may be a food quality issue. So next is food quality, that is may be caused by mishandling. So food quality है वो that is caused by mishandling. Mishandling कोई भी आपकी रॉ मटेरियल की हो सकती है, आपके प्रोसेस की हो सकती है, आपके इन प्रोसेस के टाइम हो सकती है, आपके फिनिश गुड के टाइम हो सकती है. So that may be caused by a number of that error you can say that number of different type of error that caused by due to the mishandling. And the next one is the food safety, that may be caused by the unintentional contamination, as we already discussed. कि जो भी unintentional contamination है like process की वजह से है, raw material की वजह से, that are the unintentional contamination. And third one is food fraud, that is intentionally done to increase profit margin. So food fraud में क्या है, आप intentionally कोई contamination करते हो product के अंदर, that may be by the own employee, external employee, maybe the competitor. So that is done by the to increase the profit margin, or done by the other external sources and maybe internal also. So food, next is the food defense, the deliberately carry out to cause harm. तो food defense में क्या है, इसमें deliberately है, that is the contamination is caused by the human being or any your vendors or your suppliers, your competitors. So first one is food safety, protecting the food supply from the unintentional contamination, whereas food defense refer to the protecting the food supply from intentional adulteration with a motive to cause harm. So same as जैसे हमने डिस्कस किया कि फूड सेफ्टी जैसे है वो अनइंटेंशनल कंटेमिनेशन है, एंड जो फूड डिफेंस है दैट इज इंटेंशनल कंटेमिनेशन. तो हमें जो फूड डिफेंस को है लाइक हमें वी हैव टू प्रोटेक्ट अवर फूड, वी हैव टू डिफेंस अवर फूड. So that is called food defense through the intentional contamination or intentional adulteration. And then is the food security, when all people at all time have access to sufficient safe nutrition food to maintain a healthy and active life. Food security, individual or household food security related to purchasing powder which is determined by income, access to resources, affordability of food. Regional food security, where regions are dependent on key distribution route for food. National trading block security related to the ability of country or trading block to access sufficient food stuff even in the face of severe disruptions of the supply chain. and global food security, and that is ability of the world food producer to meet global demand and also to ensure the efficiency and effectiveness of global trading and distribution system. Now we will discuss about what is food crime and food security. The potential for food crime is often influenced by difference between the availability and demand, and creating an opportunity for criminals or fraudsters to financially benefit from the shortfall. So the point says talk about the food crime that is often influenced by the different that the difference between the availability and demand. So because जैसे आपके पास for example कोई raw material की supply है that you have a deficient of that material और आपको किसी दूसरे supplier से लेना है like आपको दूसरे से demand करना है तो so you are creating an opportunity of that कि वो वहाँ पे कुछ आपको जो अदर आपके वेंडर्स हैं लाइक न्यू वन है या फ्रॉडस्ट हैं या क्रिमिनल्स हैं वो क्या है उसमें बेनिफिशली बेनिफिट लेते हैं दैट शॉर्टफॉल का बिकॉज यू हैव टू चूज दैट अदर वन. The interconnecting factor that the frame food security also influence the opportunity for food crime. The potential for food crime is often influenced by a difference between availability and demand, creating an opportunity for criminal fraudster to financially benefit from the shortfall. So that is the same as we have discussed recently. So crime, an offense or illegal act punished by law. The term illegal can be considered as being unlawful, contrary to law, and an activity that law directly forbids. And food crime, often when food is intentionally modified to bring like harm to the individual or purpose of economic gain, and both situation may lead to the issue of food safety or food quality. The example of that, two brothers who owned the operation Jeans's farm in Colorado pled guilty to the charges associated with the introduction of cattle the cantaloupe into the interstate commerce that was adulterating with Listeria monocyte. So here was two brothers who was running the plant. Where what they do the contamination into their product, like they do the adulterant with the Listeria monocyte. Thus, it was determined that the cantaloupe over that poisonous substance that rendered them injurious to health. तो जैसे इन्होंने किसी इंग्रेडिएंट की या कुछ ऐसे इन्होंने कंपोजिशन को होल्ड किया कुछ अदर प्रोडक्ट से लाइक लिस्टीरिया के साथ दैट इज अ माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिज्म सो उसके साथ इन्होंने बायोलॉजिकल हजार्ड क्रिएट किया अडल्ट्रेंट किया प्रोडक्ट को सो दैट लिस्टीरिया मोनोसाइट इज हार्मलेस टू ह्यूमन हेल्थ. सो जैसे ही वो प्रोडक्ट रिलीज हुआ या जैसे मार्केट में गया सो दैट पॉज इम्पोज टू द हेल्थ ऑफ पीपल. सो जैसे ही कोई आप अडल्ट्रेंट करते हो लाइक बिकॉज दैट इज नॉर्मली दैट इज अ फूड क्राइम एंड फूड फ्रॉड. सो जैसे ही ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की फूड फ्रॉड करता है लाइक कोई भी अपने इंग्रेडिएंट में इन करता है कोई रिप्लेसमेंट करता है फॉर एग्जांपल दे आर सेइंग दैट वी एडिंग ए palm oil and they are adding into a vegetable oil into your product, so they are doing the food fraud. ओके ऐसा फूड फ्रॉड कर रहे हैं कि उनको जो है अपने आरएम के लिए फॉर एग्जांपल उनको पाम ऑयल डालना है तो पाम ऑयल की जो कॉस्ट है दैट इज कॉस्ट लाइक आप उनको 500 पर लीटर पड़ रहा है या 400 पड़ रहा है दैट इज XYZ कॉस्ट. सो और उनको वेजिटेबल ऑयल जब वो 200 की कॉस्ट पड़ रहा है तो वो अपने प्रोडक्ट में बोल रहे हैं कि हम डाल रहे हैं पाम ऑयल बट दे एडिंग ए वेजिटेबल ऑयल सो दैट्स कॉल्ड ए फूड फ्रॉड क्योंकि वो अपनी कॉस्ट कटिंग देख रहे हैं या अपना मार्जिन देख रहे हैं. A food defense where the adulterant has the potential to cause harm and separate where the agent is non-harmful rather than the FSI's of definition of them being a separate set of issues. And activity associated with protecting the nation's supply chain from deliberate or intentional act of contamination of tampering. Tampering mean कोई भी अपने प्रोडक्ट के साथ छेड़खानी करना like they are doing any mislabeling or they're doing the misbranding or adding an ingredient in the place of other ingredients. And another one the passes of intentional contamination like perhaps as adulteration of the food supply contraction with the unintentional contamination that is the focus of established food safety measures. Food defense reflect the protection activity and for the security assurance process or procedure that deliver the product safety. So the FD has a differentiation between the national risk assessment model and supply chain or the organization food defense model. So food fraud deliberately placing food on the market, the financial gain with the intention of deceiving the consumer, and the food fraud become the food crime when it no longer involves the random act by rogues within the food industry, but become an organized activity by groups which knowingly set out to like deceive and or injure those purchasing food. Then is a EMA, that is a economically motivated adulteration. The fraudulent intentional substitution or addition of substance in a product for the purpose of increasing the apparent value of product or reducing the cost of its production for economic gain. जैसे मैंने पहले एग्जांपल दी है, लाइक आप बोल रहे हो कि हम डाल रहे हैं इसमें पाम ऑयल एंड यू आर एडिंग ए वेजिटेबल ऑयल, क्योंकि पाम ऑयल आपको कॉस्टली पड़ रहा है तो आप उसकी कॉस्ट की बजाय उसमें पाम ऑयल ऐड कर रहे हो और आप कस्टमर को ये बोलते हो कि आई एम एडिंग ए पाम ऑयल, आप लेबल पे भी डिक्लेयर कर रहे हो पाम ऑयल बट यू आर एडिंग ए वेजिटेबल ऑयल, क्योंकि आपको पाम ऑयल की कॉस्ट ज़्यादा पड़ रही है बट आप वेजिटेबल ऑयल डाल रहे हो और उसकी कॉस्ट आपको 200 रुपये पड़ रही है. सो दैट मीन ड्यू टू द मार्जिन एंड योर प्रोडक्ट रिड्यूसिंग योर प्रोडक्ट कॉस्ट, तो आप अपने इकोनॉमिक गेन के लिए अपने प्रोडक्ट के साथ फूड फ्रॉड कर रहे हो. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड फूड फ्रॉड. कोई भी इंग्रेडिएंट रिप्लेसमेंट कर रहे हो. Then EMA is the only example of type of the fraudulent activity that can occur in the food supply chain. EMA as a definition should not be used when considering other type of fraudulent activity. The different type of food fraud generate various level of monetary gains, like dependent on how well the fraud has been carried out. If detection occurs and form an element of the wider food crime, most food fraud causes are not harmful. Notable exceptions include like melanin in Chinese skim milk powder, Sudan dyes in spices, false labeling of Fush as monkish, and plasticizer D phthalate being used as a cheaper substitute of clouding agent in food and beverages. Here are the 7 types of food crime. As per the Spink and Moyer 2011, they declare the 7 types of food crime. First one is adulteration. A component of a finished product is fraudulent. The addition of uncleared material into a food item for economic gain, product adulteration. So these are the type of said the adulteration, like कोई भी addition of कोई किसी other addition आप product अपने product के अंदर addition कर रहे हो, like आप बोलते हो कि मैं for example 1 ग्राम प्रोटीन डाल रहा हूँ और आप प्रोटीन उसमें प्रोटीन सोर्स आप बोलते हो कि मैं फॉर एग्जांपल DHA ऑयल डाल रहा हूँ या DHA डाल रहा हूँ या फिश ऑयल डाल रहा हूँ, बट एक्चुअली आप जो ले रहे हो वो किसी और प्रोडक्ट से ले रहे हो, लाइक आप आर्टिफिशियल ले रहे हो, सिंथेटिक डाल रहे हो. तो दैट इज अनक्लियर्ड आइटम, अनक्लियर्ड मटेरियल इनटू योर फूड आइटम फॉर द इकोनॉमिक गेन, क्योंकि आपने प्रोडक्ट को अडल्ट्रेट कर रहे हो. फॉर एग्जांपल मिल्क है, मिल्क के केस में आप एक तो डायरेक्ट मिल्क दे रहे हो और एक मिल्क में आप अपने कोई लाइक वाटर एडिशन कर रहे हो, उसमें वेजिटेबल ऑयल डाल रहे हो या उसमें यूरिया ऐड कर रहे हो, उसको अडल्ट्रेट कर रहे हो, because you are doing a addition of unclear material into your product. So that is called adulteration. There is a counterfeit. All aspects of fraudulent product and packaging are fully replicated. Then diversion, the sale of distribution of legitimate product outside of intended market. Overrun, legitimate market, that product is made in excess of production agreement. Then simulation, that is the illegitimate product is designed to look like but does not exactly copy the legitimate product. 6, the tampering, the legitimate product and packaging are used in a fraudulent way. Then theft, legitimate product is stolen and passed off as a legitimately product, that is procured. Then misleading indicators. So use of words such as a natural, traditional. Use of picture, for example, deposition or packaging that does not reflect the nature of product inside or the method of production. So here is a paragraph and is a slide which explain me about the explain about the food fraud, what is the food defense through the internal employee and through the external also. So first we will discuss about what food fraud. Why was the food fraud committed? Due to the motivated or monetary gain, deliberately modify the food to achieve more. The misleading indication like the picture, use of words such as natural, traditional, as use of picture for example, deposition on packaging that do not reflect the nature of product inside or the method of production. So here are the food fraud, food defense, and the food defense through the external agent and food defense through the internal employee. सो यहाँ पे डिफरेंट डिफरेंट एग्जांपल है कि क्यों फ्रॉड किया जाता है थ्रू द इंटरनल एम्प्लॉय या एक्सटर्नल किसी एजेंट की तरफ वजह से या कोई थर्ड पार्टी की वजह से या आपके वेंडर की वजह से. So why was the food committed? Motivation for monetary gain, like deliberately modified the food to achieve more. So it may be to the that is monetary gain. क्योंकि मॉनिटरी गेन ऐसे कि आपको हो सकता है कि जैसे आप कोई फूड फ्रॉड कर रहे हैं आपके प्रोडक्ट के अंदर आप बोलते हो कि मैं एज शेड कि मैं पाम ऑयल डाल रहा हूँ या आप डाल रहे हो वेजिटेबल ऑयल और आप बोल रहे हो पाम ऑयल ए ग्रेड डालता हूँ बट आप पाम ऑयल सी ग्रेड डाल रहे हो बिकॉज उसमें आपको कॉस्ट का डिफरेंस पड़ रहा है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल आपको पाम ऑयल ए ग्रेड 500 का पड़ रहा है और सी ग्रेड दैट इज कॉस्ट फॉर द 200 या 300 तो आपको 200 रुपये का मार्जिन पड़ रहा है उसमें. सो यू आर टेकिंग फॉर द मॉनिटरी गेन और यूर फॉर द प्रोडक्ट द कॉस्ट कटिंग या कॉस्ट सेविंग. So maybe this is the reason or maybe the cause they are doing the food fraud into their product. So why did the agent want monetary gain? Because motivated to assess money exceptionally if proprietary can identify the vulnerability. And food defense through the internal employee. Why did the employee deliberately adulterate the product? Like motivated to harm or that insulate harm had been caused. And why did the employee want to bring harm? Revenge, dissatisfaction, excitement in causing chaos, financial, for example, blackmail. So internal employee क्या करेगा? Maybe उसको have an issue with the name of employee or he having issue with the management. So उसका मैनेजमेंट से इशू हो सकता है या वो ब्लैकमेल करना चाह रहा हो ड्यू टू द दैट इज फॉर द मॉनेटरी गेन और फाइनेंशियल गेन कि हाँ मुझे इतना पैसा दो आई विल डू दिस मैं ये कर दूंगा ये प्रोडक्ट में डाल दूंगा ये करूंगा हाँ मेरे को ये पैसा दो मैं इतना पैसा दो ये. सो मे बी दैट कैन बी ब्लैकमेल फॉर दैट. So through the external agent, why did the agent deliberately adulterate the product motivated to harm publicly or other motive? Why did the agent want to bring harm like revenge, dissatisfaction, enemy, excitement in causing chaos, financial gain, for example, blackmail? So food fraud, why did the agent target the organization that its ability to perpetrate the crime without discovery, magnitude of financial gain compared to risk? And why did the employee feel dissatisfied or resentful? So unjust work related practices, termination and personal grudges also. So किसी का personal कोई issue है like with the management or with the manager, maybe with his or her line manager, अगर वही maybe do the termination, इसको टर्मिनेशन कर दिया जाए या टर्मिनेशन किया हो या टर्मिनेशन का लाइक उसको थ्रेट दिया हो. सो मे बी दैट इज द रीजन ऑफ वो इंटरनल एम्प्लॉय आपका जो है फूड फ्रॉड या फूड डिफेंस कर सकता है. सो व्हाई डिड द एजेंट टारगेट दिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन? अनजस्ट बिजनेस रिलेटेड प्रैक्टिसेस, पर्सनल ग्रेटिट्यूड, एबिलिटी टू गेन पब्लिकली ड्यू टू द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन प्रोफाइल. सो वही एक्सटर्नल क्यों करेगा? फॉर एग्जांपल कंपटीटर है या कोई एक्सटर्नल करवा रहा है क्योंकि अगर वो ऐसा करवाएगा कि हाँ अगर फॉर एग्जांपल उसका कंपटीटर है उसकी सेल ज़्यादा है या उसका प्रोडक्ट मार्केटिंग में ज़्यादा चल रहा है या उसके प्रोडक्ट की क्वालिटी ज़्यादा अच्छी है तो उसकी लाइक रेपुटेशन को डाउन करने के लिए ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की और वैल्यू कम करने के लिए या अपनी उसकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन प्रोफाइल डाउन करने के लिए ही मे बी कैन कॉज फूड फ्रॉड और दैट फूड डिफेंस. So why did the illicit business related practices rise? What is about the organization profile that draws attention? Like in order to answer the above specific question, the respective organization can investigate the reason. For example, vulnerability to fraud, network in which the business support and so on. So organization वो vulnerability assessment कर सकते हैं organization में जिसके लिए कि VASAP and TASAP are arranged for that. That is a threat assessment critical control point and vulnerability assessment critical control point. So VASAP and TASAP is a process to identify the food fraud and food defense into the organization. कि कैसे कोई अगर फ्रूट फ्रॉड कर रहा है या फूड डिफेंस आपके प्रोडक्ट को कर रहा है अडल्ट्रेट कर रहा है तो आप कैसे इसको मिटिगेट कर सकते हो. यू हैव टू ड्रॉ द चेकलिस्ट एंड यू हैव टू ड्रॉ द रिस्क असेसमेंट एज पर द वल्नरेबिलिटी असेसमेंट एंड थ्रेट असेसमेंट. And why did the employee terminated? Why did like unjust work later practices rise in the company? So same in that case, the organization have to investigate if the above claim are true and find way to resolve unjust work later practices. So जो भी unrelated like work unrelated unjust practices हो रही हैं तो they can concluded through that investigation करने के बाद वो they can find out why he was doing that or why he is going to do that. And why did the unjust business related practices arrive with the company? What is about the organization profile that draws attention that in order to answer the above specific question, the respective organization can investigate reason, for example, country of origin, or organization, religious, ideological background, previous business practices that could warrant organization being that is being seen as a unjust. So intentional and unintentional modification of food, as in the food fraud, defense, safety and quality that need to be addressed in the food control system. So in the unintentional case and the unintentional contamination are through the food safety. So जैसे हमने डिस्कस किया कि फूड सेफ्टी में कोई भी आपका प्रोसेस एरर है, आपका रॉ मटेरियल एरर है, दैट इज मे बी ड्यू टू द प्रोसेस, कोई प्रोसेस में फॉल्ट हो गया, प्रोसेस में होल्ट हो गया, सिस्टम में होल्ट हो गया, या रॉ मटेरियल में कोई नॉन कंप्लायंस था, या हाई कोई भी यानी हजार था, फिजिकल था, बायोलॉजिकल था, केमिकल था. सो दैट इज कम इनटू योर अनइंटेंशनल, कोई आप उसको अनइंटेंशनल नहीं कर रहे हो. सो दैट इज कम इनटू फूड सेफ्टी. तो कैसे आपने अपने फूड को सेव कर रहे हो थ्रू टू कंटेमिनेट और यू प्रिवेंट द कंटेमिनेट फ्रॉम द कंटेमिनेशन और एनी टाइप ऑफ लाइक हजार्ड फिजिकल बायोलॉजिकल केमिकल. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड फूड सेफ्टी. आप कैसे अपने फूड को सेव करते हो. ठीक है, तो वो फूड सेफ्टी में क्या है, दैट इज जो भी कोई अडल्ट्रेशन है या कोई भी हजार्ड है, दैट इज अनइंटेंशनल. आप इंटेंशनली नहीं डालते हो, क्योंकि वो सिस्टम का एरर हो सकता है, वो आरएम का एरर होता है, वो प्रोसेस का एरर होता है, वो हैंडलिंग एरर हो सकता है. ठीक है, और एंड इंटेंशनल में क्या है, दैट इज कॉल्ड द फूड, दैट इज कॉल्ड फूड डिफेंस एंड फूड फ्रॉड. इसमें क्या है कि आप इंटेंशनली आप कुछ एडअप करते हो या इंग्रेडिएंट को ऐड करते हो, टेम्परिंग करते हो, मिसलीडिंग करते हो प्रोडक्ट, मिस ब्रांडिंग करते हो. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड द फूड डिफेंस एंड फूड फ्रॉम में कोई आप जैसे एडिशन कर रहे हो या कोई अपने प्रोडक्ट में डिक्लेयर कुछ और कर रहे हो, दे कुछ और कहे हो, लेबल में कुछ और है, देते कुछ और. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड फूड फ्रॉड. एंड फूड डिफेंस में कोई भी एक्सटर्नल और इंटरनल एम्प्लॉय आपका कुछ प्रोडक्ट के अंदर ऐड कर देता है, उसको कंटेमिनेट कर देता है. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल प्रोडक्ट के अंदर कोई उसने ब्लेड ऐड कर दिया, या प्रोडक्ट के अंदर उसने कुछ कांच डाल दिया, या पेपर डाल दिया, प्लास्टिक डाल दिया, इंटेंशनली डाला वो. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड योर फूड फ्रॉड एंड फूड डिफेंस. कि कोई भी इंटेंशनली जो चीज हो रही है, जो विदाउट द इंटेंशन कोई goes in the unintentional, that is come under your food safety. और कोई भी intentional है, that is come under your food fraud and food defense. So how you can you can calculate your intentional and unintentional modification of the food throughout the food supply chain. So thanks to all of you. If you have any query, you can ask, and feel free to ask.
I guess no participants has any questions. None of the participants has put any questions on the chat box. So we can now come to the conclusion of this particular session. Thank you, Mr. Sunil Kumar, for the webinar today. The way you have shared your insights and knowledge on today's topic was really interesting. I hope that all the participants has been benefited by your expertise and wisdom on the given topic today. I thank you for giving your valuable time and effort to make this webinar a successful one. I thank all the participants as well for being an integral part of this webinar. Hope to see you all again soon. Wish you all a best of luck on behalf of TNV Academy for all your future endeavors. Thank you once again.
Okay, thank you. Thanks TNV, and thanks all the participants. Any of you have any query or any question in your mind, you can ask clearly, and can ask freely anytime. And again, I say thanks to all of